living and surrounding Baltimore. Don't ask him about preseason games, oh no. Stuffing things in Griffin Basso. Despite it being on the internet, he can call it what he wants, so Glenn Clark Radio. Glenn Clark Radio. Glenn Clark Radio. Duke sucks.
And a fly ball here to deep right field. Jones. And that ball hits his glove and then hits the top of the wall and is ruled a home run by the first base umpire, Chris Guccione. Spencer Jones may have turned into too tall Jones there as he knocked that ball over the wall for a most unusual home run. A curveball to end it. Bradish finally has the finishing touch in the fifth. Off the end of the bat from Judge into shallow right field. Blaze Alexander in 6 scoreless innings. 100 magnificent pitches, 1 hit allowed for Kyle Bradish.
Every good outing is a confidence boost, and that's what we're trying to do. It's very hard to have confidence in this game, but having 2 back-to-back good ones, it puts me in a good position for the next one.
There you go. That's all courtesy of Masson, as indeed we would normally have him up on the board, but there was a printer issue, so we'll get to that.
We love you still, Kyle.
Kyle Bradish,
I think.
On a day where a lot of guys could have been man of the match. I mean, obviously Blaze Alexander had a great day, and Adley Rutschman with the home run, and Kobe Mayo had another big
Anthony
game.
Volpe booting a couple balls.
Yeah, that was helpful. Lots of options, but Kyle Bradish worked 6 shutout innings on the heels of what had been his best performance of the season. He delivers a better best performance of the season. And the Orioles, who, a week and a half removed from getting their absolute brains beat in by the New York Yankees, end up winning a series. Now, let's not go too crazy. They're still 2-5 on the season against the New York Yankees. Let's not pretend like one cancels out the other. But clearly, if you move the goalposts, if you do change and say, hey, from where you were, from being completely flattened to now being lifelike, like signs of life, this is the nature of baseball. And this is the frustrating part about when we overreact to anything. When we overreact to anything, you want my gut? The Orioles still probably aren't good enough to compete for the AL East. I know. Wild. Bold take McGee over here. Watch out, Skip Bayless. I'm going to take your spot on, what's that show called?
First Take?
First Take.
Wait, no, he's on the Fox show.
No, he came back to the other
he's
one.
back to...
Yeah.
Oh, well, not yet, right? They announced it's going to be soon.
I don't know.
That he's rejoining.
He was on the show.
Oh, he was?
I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't watch it like
sorry.
you do. So
Sorry. It's not my area. I just see the internet talking about it, and so I react to that. Watch out, Bayless. I'm coming for you. I don't think the Orioles are going to compete. But this is the problem. The problem is whenever we overreact to anything, we're reacting just to what we have. And in that moment, like when the Orioles got their brains beat in by the Yankees, we reacted to it accordingly. And then everything that happened from there. And losing a series to the Athletics and just not getting any momentum put together whatsoever. And winning 3 out of 4 is not suddenly saying, wow, now they've really got some momentum.
Well, but...
What?
I mean,
well, yeah, but if it turns into 7 out of 8, if they go sweep the Nationals this weekend, then they've got momentum, which they'll need because they got to go to Tampa next week, and Tampa's one of the only good teams in baseball, or in the American League. momentum can start here. This doesn't qualify as momentum, but it can start here. And now you can feel like you've got a small track record with Kyle Bradish. And if you can feel good about Kyle Bradish, then you'd then be able to feel good about 1/5 of your starting rotation, which, to be fair, is more than we felt good about 6 days ago.
Yeah.
6 days ago, we felt good about 0/5 of the Orioles starting rotation. So 1 would be progress. And I don't say all of this to be trite or to make fun of anyone who's excited. If you're excited, be excited. This is baseball season. You can only react to the games that have been played. I still think the Orioles have a lot of problems. I still don't think they're good enough to be able to overcome Gunnar Henderson being this bad. These are my feelings, particularly given that Jordan Westberg, we got to go meet with our support system. Not normally something that you got to do when you're ready to go play baseball. But all that being said, it starts somewhere, and the argument that they can't be as bad as they looked, probably true. How much better they are than that, we still don't know. And that's something they're going to have to prove. Coming up on the program, Scott Braun, Foul Territory. He's going to check in with us, get his thoughts on where the Orioles are. We're going to meet Ravens rookie tight end Josh Cuevas, 5th round pick out of Alabama. And then we will also, in a couple of minutes, chat with our buddy Patrick Stevens. You know him, Mr. Discourse himself. We'll talk about Hopkins. We'll talk about the NCAA quarterfinals. That's coming up on the program today. Kyle Bradish was the man of the match. Imagine, you could do that with your mind. You can put Kyle Bradish's face right there on the board. I don't really have a whole lot more to say about the game. It was a really pleasant day. It was pleasant. And Kyle Bradish finding that form would be wonderful. Somebody has to. But one starting pitcher alone does not a rotation make. And so, I don't want to be dismissive of it or just say, well, that was cool, but we got nothing to complain about, so let's just move on. That's not the way that I feel. It's going to be measured. My measurement is, that was cool, now what? What happens next? It's sort of a respite from what we were feeling. What we were feeling was panic. What we were feeling was,
What was the point of all this?
yeah, we're going to go, as I was discussing the other day with someone in baseball, the part that you can't say out loud is, for those that want to fire Mike Elias, the most likely thing that happens when you fire your general manager is that the next general manager comes in and tears everything down and says, I'll take the job, but I want it to be my people, my draft picks. If there's something that we would point out about Mike Elias, it's that he didn't keep around any of the pieces that he inherited. The pieces that he inherited, he wrote out their contracts. He either traded them or they moved on. That's what general managers do, which doesn't mean that the next general manager couldn't come in and say, well, we're going to keep these pieces for a couple of years. But they want their guys. That's normally the way this works. And typically the way that you do that is by going through another rebuild. Typically. Not always, but typically that's the way that it works. And you could say, well, that seems crazy. You've got foundational pieces here. Why would anyone want to do that? I'm like, that's baseball. That's the way that baseball... It's kind of strange. It's why you usually only do this when you feel like things are broken. Or you know it's time to go through a rebuilding phase. So it's certainly better to feel like, okay, maybe there's signs of life than this has to be ripped down to the studs. I feel better today than I felt Saturday. But it doesn't mean I feel good. That's baseball. It's a really long season, and lots of things can change. But lots of things have to change for the Orioles. Still, even after a good series win, they're not fixed. The good is the good. Kyle Bradish is moving into the good category. And I don't even know what would Kyle Bradish's grade if we had done. I know with Drew and we were talking about it yesterday. If we had done first quarter grades, Kyle Bradish would have been a D at best. So
yeah, I mean, I guess you're giving him points for being healthy. Like that's the.
Yeah, I mean, he gets that. He had been awful. So you pray that this is Kyle Bradish remembering who he is. But first of all, again, even 2 starts does not a story make. And then, even if that's the case, what other pitchers are going to become answers? Because the best grade that any of the starting pitchers would have received for the first quarter of the season would have been Trevor Rogers. And how are you feeling about Trevor Rogers?
Hoping he gets over the flu.
And he would have been the highest grade because he at least put together a string of some good starts. He might have been a C, C minus.
Probably what I'm thinking, yeah.
Yeah. And that would have been the best grade that you would have given to a starting pitcher. And I'm not trying to say this to pile on. It's just this is the reality. The reality is, okay, this is something. It's something. And who knows? Maybe Brandon Young's stringing together something that makes us say he's a real thing. Not ready to say that definitively, but who knows? I think he starts again on Sunday, right?
Yeah,
So
yes, he does.
You know, he strings together a third good start, then we start to have the conversation. The schedule release, of course, is tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Finally know how many games the Ravens are going to win.
Right,
now.
that's a great point. You know me, Mr. Schedule Man.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited that we're doing a live Rita and Glenn this evening to react to the schedule. I'll do my best. And I got to be on BAL tomorrow on the flagship. Got to make a big deal out of the schedule. You know, if things that I'm interested in, I know everybody's raving about the Thanksgiving games, and we're doing Thanksgiving Eve this year. As I said yesterday, I loathe the fact that we're doing Wednesday Night Football, and I can't wait to watch it. Like,
I'm not watching. I'd rather watch. They have no respect for Feast Week. That's what's supposed to be.
Okay, to be fair,
Monday,
Feast Week
Tuesday,
has no
Wednesday.
respect for Feast Week. Like, they've killed the Maui Invitational.
I know,
like, they've
but
killed it.
They at least gave us the whatever the Vegas thing was called, the players.
Yeah, but they were
era.
playing the games at like midnight. I mean, like they're not even taking that seriously. Yeah, I mean,
games in Maui not being played at midnight.
Yeah, if you're 22 and you don't have to worry about making dinner for your family the next day.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Like adults, we like Maui because they played the games that matter. They always played in the middle of the day. They always did that well. They said we're gonna do those at 7 o'clock.
You're not staying up until 12:30 for Michigan Gonzaga.
Yeah, believe it or not, I'm not.
Come on.
I have no idea.
Fan.
I have no idea what they're doing. I have no clue why they haven't figured that out. Like, hey, we can play this thing in Vegas. Nobody's at the games. We kind of need to prioritize television. That sort of needs to be what we do here.
People are watching Maryland UNLV at
That's
1
a great
a.m.
point.
Come on.
All in on Maryland UNLV at 1 a.m. Maryland's playing in the thing again this year.
That players are a thing?
Yeah, they are.
Cool. Do you think they're going to be better?
I hope. Seems hard to be worse.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the Thanksgiving games and the Thanksgiving Eve game on paper all look good. So how many of those 8 quarterbacks are going to be hurt between now and then? While we're hyping all this up, like this might be the greatest Thanksgiving. You get the Packers-Rams on Thanksgiving Eve. Then you get Bears-Lions.
So what, they're playing on? Are they going to do a Saturday game, or are they?
No, they're going to do the Friday. They're going to do the Black Friday game.
No. I mean, when are the Rams?
No,
and Packers
apparently
playing?
the story is they're going to both have buys.
They are? Okay. So
That's when they're going to have their buys
11 or whatever.
before. Yeah, that's the story because they can't do a Saturday game that week because of
College, I don't know.
I guess they could both play Thursday night. No, they can't both play Thursday night unless you do a doubleheader. Like, that's the only way that you could do that is if you did a Thursday night doubleheader. But I'm pretty sure I saw that they were both that they had organized this that both teams would have buys. And then Bills Chiefs on Thursday. And on paper, all of that looks phenomenal. Steelers Broncos on Black Friday is kind of the least interesting of the 5 games,
you
but
watch Aaron Rodgers versus.
Yeah, I mean, I could get it. The Broncos were good last year, and the Steelers will probably be competitive somehow if Aaron Rodgers is playing, which I guess still remains an if because he went to Pittsburgh and
they had a good conversation, right?
And that was that. Like, I guess that's still an if and not a for sure. The things that I'm interested in with the Ravens, I would say the only real things I'm really interested are, again, when do they play their first home game based on the concerns looking at the calendar that we brought up and the realities of the calendar. When do they play their first home game? And that's really only interesting in, like, the span of if they're traveling for the first 3 weeks, how significantly are they traveling? How much does that catch up to them? If they're going to, like, Carolina in week 1 or week 2, then it seems like that's not an outrageous amount of travel. Or if, like, a Pittsburgh road game is in week 1 or week 2, Cleveland, whatever it is.
They should give us Cleveland.
Those things aren't going to – if now they're –
there's a lot of storylines there, too. Todd Monken versus the Ravens.
Right, great point. Todd Monken versus the Ravens. Probably the biggest. I think that's the one that everybody's on NFL Network tonight.
That's the one I'd be highlighting.
That's going to be the one that everybody's
the one that sticks out to
about.
me, guys.
Yeah.
Week 1,
yeah.
Massive revenge game here.
So when do they play their first home game, and what kind of travel are they doing? And what do they do on the other end of Brazil, which is this is the furthest that teams will be traveling, and considering that Baltimore is further away from Brazil than Dallas is, this will be the furthest that an NFL team will travel with no bye on either side. So, like, the Brazil games that were in week 1 before and the Australia game in week 1 this year, you're not playing a game before that. This year, this is further than even, say, Germany.
Yeah. Where are they going? To Rio? Or is it?
I believe it's Rio.
Okay. 12, like,
this is the
hours.
What's that?
12 to 13 hours.
Legit. Yeah. This is the furthest that any team will travel for a game without a bye on either side. So are they doing anything to try to mitigate that? Like, we know that the Ravens aren't playing in the Thursday night game in week 2. That might have been an appropriate way to try to help one of these two teams. But then they'd say, well, we don't want to give one team a bigger advantage than the other team. So in week 3, do you get the Monday night game, for example? And again, the answer would be, well, you can't give it to both teams. In week 4, I meant. You can't give, but maybe one can get Sunday night and one can get Monday night. This is the most significant travel, and the Ravens more so than the Cowboys. Not to say that the Cowboys aren't traveling a long way. It's just that we understand how geography works.
Yeah, because why is
Baltimore's
this not
here,
the week
Texas
1 game? Like, why aren't they doing it the way they did?
Because they were doing the Australia thing.
All right. Well, they're doing Australia Wednesday,
and
right?
because of when Labor Day falls this year. It's a late Labor Day this year instead of an early Labor Day.
Oh, it's the 14th.
Yeah, so it's not the first. Not the first Friday of September.
So the Australia game's the 9th, the Wednesday, right?
The Australia game.
So what's Friday?
Friday is the 11th, but Wednesday isn't protected by the antitrust law.
So why were they able
Fridays,
to do Fridays? Because
Fridays
of
are
the Labor Day.
protected for high school football.
Okay.
The way they were able to get around it is because with the early Labor Day, it was the first Friday of September that they were doing the Brazil thing. Because this year it's the second Friday, the antitrust law prevents you from being able to play a Friday night game that day.
Cool. So we just tank the Cowboys and Ravens seasons for it. Got it.
I mean, it's not going to be easy. Now, let's not pretend it's not demonstrably further away than Germany, but it is further away than Germany. It's the furthest that any team will have ever traveled without a bye on either side. Actually, I got to do that math again. because like a West Coast team going.
Yeah, if a West Coast team was going to,
I gotta think about what that math
it's like
would
8
be
hours
from
from Baltimore to Germany.
Right.
So
So
if
if
you
you
were in
add in
LA.
like it's 5 hours from Baltimore, so it's like it's comparable. But I don't know how many West Coast teams have gone to Germany either. I haven't looked back in the history of Germany because obviously England is closer than Germany. It's complicated. But what are you doing, if anything, to try to mitigate the impact of that? I will be interested in that. That to me is a very compelling conversation about how the schedule is structured. Now, you got to play the games, and you got to win the games. That's the way it works. But for someone that doesn't care at all about the schedule, me, just doesn't do anything for me whatsoever, that would be one thing that I'm particularly in tune with tonight is what do they do at all to try to mitigate you have to go to Brazil, the furthest distance that any team on the East Coast could travel without a bye on either side. That's just interesting to me. We'll find that out tonight. All right, let's talk some NCAA Lacrosse Tournament. He joins us every week. You know him from USA Lacrosse Magazine. You follow him on social media at Discourse, D1S Course. He is our friend Patrick Stevens, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Patrick, good morning, sir. How are you?
I am doing just dandy today and looking forward to a very busy couple days.
I was going to say, are you doing both days?
Doing both days, and this is an easy combo. Going up to Hofstra, obviously the drive is parts of it aren't fun, but and then just a quick dip down to Delaware, spend the night around there. So those are two pretty compact ones to be able to get to. So shouldn't be as much of a problem as this past weekend when I did get ambitious and did the Carolina Richmond Virginia combination. And
man,
it was I felt it on Monday.
I bet you did. I bet you did. You got any for any like Hopkins fans that are going up to Long Island? You have any dining recommendations?
Well, you got to go to Vincent's. You got to go to Vincent's Clam Bar in Carl Place, which is about 2 exits up the Meadowbrook State Parkway from Hofstra. That's where I'll be Friday night. So. That's
and if I remember correctly from what I've read from Patrick Stevens in USA Lacrosse Magazine, it's where most teams go.
Yes.
Before.
Yes. That's it. It is it was the coach at Georgetown, Kevin Warren, who was Maryland's defensive coordinator for a couple of years at the start of the John Tillman era, is the guy that he's a Hofstra grad, and he pointed it out to me that's where I needed to go. And so there's I've already talked to Kevin this week about the necessity of going.
That's pretty great.
Definitely will be popping up there. And as he pointed out, like the great thing is that like when Georgetown's up there, and they're in Delaware this week, so no Vinnies for Kevin. But he's like, of course the coaches get to design their own menu, so he always he definitely has his favorites, and certainly. I know that I know there's certain things on that menu I'm looking forward to having tomorrow night.
All right, Patrick. We talked about Hopkins last week, and I remember you saying, "Hey, the way that they play, they can play be in games because of their style, but can they make a deep run?" And we'll find out. They that was to me like quintessentially how Hopkins is going to win a game. What they were able to do against Cornell. And when they've beaten good teams, they've been kind of exactly like that this season. They're not beating good teams by 5 goals and running away from them. Can they replicate that at all against an even better Notre Dame team on Saturday?
I think it's going to be more challenging, obviously. And, one of the interesting stats, and I was just looking this up before we talked here, because I'm thinking about goalies a lot this week. Hopkins won that game at Cornell with 3 saves.
That's nuts.
Okay.
Nuts.
Okay, and
no, they caused some turnovers. Obviously,
he's had a really good year, but you don't see it. The last time a team had only 3 saves in an NCAA tournament game was Notre Dame in a first-round loss to Denver in 2018. You want to take a stab at the last time that a team won with less than 3 saves?
I mean, it's got to be if it happened, it's got to be like a blowout where a team just won every face-off and the other team barely saw the ball, right?
You're on the right track.
Okay.
It was the first round of the 2012 tournament. Jack Runkle made 2 stops. for Loyola, and they won 17-5, I think it was, against Canisius.
That's what it would have to be.
So, and there was, I think it was, he played 50 minutes, and then the backup went in and gave up 3 goals. So it was, for as memorable as that run was for Loyola, that first game was completely forgettable. But there it is, popping up in some history here. So I do think they're going to have to make a few more stops, but I think the thing about Notre Dame is this is not a Notre Dame that has that singular talent that we usually have seen from them. There's definitely a lot of options, and they played really well in their first round game against Jacksonville. But if this thing could very well be played at the pace that Hopkins wants to play at, an 11-9, 10-8, 11-8 type of game, would not be surprised if that's where it's at. And, if Hopkins can win some faceoffs, if Hopkins can shorten the game, I think they'll have a chance. At the same time, if this thing gets out to 4-1, 5-1, Hopkins is not well equipped to go chasing.
Yeah, that's just not what they bring to the table. And we point out that they caused some turnovers last week, and that to me is kind of the story. They can make your life difficult, and I guess the question becomes do they? Oh boy, I'm in danger of asking, is this a must-win? Right, which is the dumbest question you could possibly ask about a must-win game. But I think you know what I'm trying to say, which is if they go fight hard against Notre Dame on Saturday and they come up short, can this season be called a success for Hopkins and you can still buy in on the trajectory they're moving back towards competing for championships? Or this deep into Peter Milliman's run, should they have been back at championship weekend by now?
Well, I would say, first of all, given where they were at last year, that this year qualifies as a success.
Yeah.
Share a regular season title in the Big Ten, obviously with 33 other teams, but still, it was a 4-way tie. But you still had it. You made the tournament. You made a quarterfinal. You've won a postseason road game for the first time in, I think it was a decade, when they went down to Virginia and won back-to-back years. So I sit there and say this has been a good season for Hopkins. I do think you have to have a fair question as to, are they going to have enough offense at any point? Because this is the Peter Milliman, sort of roster construction idea is maybe your best guy isn't overwhelming, and maybe your number one option isn't just an absolute stud, but you get help from so far down the roster over and over and over again. There has been a real whole is greater than the sum of the parts element to Hopkins especially in 23, but also 24 in this year. And all those teams have made the quarterfinals. So, I also think you can't ignore the fact that there are things in the context of college sports that are beyond Hopkins' control.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not 1970 anymore. It's not 1990 anymore. It's not even 2007 anymore. And it's a greater challenge to be able to make deep runs. And so, yes, there's probably some tweaks that need to happen regardless of what happens, this weekend, because I don't think it's a Hopkins team that has a lot of margin for error regardless. And we've seen that, right? At the same time, I think this is, you're seeing the kind of team 3 of the last 4 years that Peter Milliman wants to have. Now, you probably need a little more oomph there, but I'm not sure it's necessarily on the wrong track. At the same time, you do have to also reasonably question what's the ceiling if that's what you're going to do, especially in the context of what's happening everywhere else in college sports.
Here's Patrick Stevens, and he's with us here on GCR. Patrick, a week ago you said any of the seeds could win the NCAA tournament. 3 of them are now out. So of the 8 teams that are remaining, how many of those can win the NCAA tournament?
I think that number might be 6 or 7.
Okay.
As
in Duke can win the NCAA tournament.
I think Duke absolutely can win.
And maybe Georgetown could win the NCAA tournament.
I think that's possible. Probably a little less likely, but possible, just because of how sound they are at the defensive end, and the Connor brothers are really good. They played fantastic the other night when they weren't turning it over, because there were just a boatload of turnovers on both sides in that game against Virginia. But defensively, they were prepared for the assignment. And Ty Banks had a fabulous game covering the Cape Millen. Anderson Moore made 15 saves. And the weird thing about Georgetown is that, okay, they had 2 games back-to-back weeks postponed at the start of the season. So they get a late start. You get revved up for an opener twice, and it doesn't happen. And then, maybe you're a little further behind when you're playing Notre Dame and Ohio State and Richmond. And they really didn't collect that high-end victory in non-conference play. I mean, they got Penn in what turned out to be their opener, and they got Loyola in the midweek game that had been postponed. Mm-hmm. But they were kind of a mystery team. Like, what were they going to be? And especially after going and beating up on a Big East that really wasn't very good this year. And they were, and Georgetown, aside from the turnover issues in the second half in particular, was really solid and had answers for just about everything, and would not be surprised if they won. They have lost 11 consecutive quarterfinals going back to 2000. The only time they've ever made the Final Four was in '99. And do you know who they went through to get to that quarterfinal?
I'm going to say Duke. Yeah,
it was Duke. So, and this is a team they beat in the tournament last year. So I think that's a game where both of those teams got to 14 in their first round games on over the weekend. I don't think we're going to see 14-12 in that game. I think that's going to be a little more closer to the vest, maybe a 10-9, 10-8, 11-9 type of game.
I was going to say, is that the best game of the weekend? But then I remembered Syracuse Carolina is happening, and that seems like on paper that probably should be the best game of the weekend.
Certainly. I know, first of all, that this is the weekend where there's more pressure than any, because you make the Final Four
it's
and you lose. Okay,
yeah.
You still made the Final Four.
Yeah.
You lose in the quarterfinals.
Nobody remembers.
Nobody remembers.
It's like it didn't happen. Right?
Yeah, there's the Serve Pro thing going on there. So, for Syracuse's senior class in particular, this is the last run for Joey Spallina and Billy Dwan and all those guys, and this has been like the thing that's been circled here. This is the team that was supposed to be that good this year, and I don't think there's any team that has more pressure on them this weekend than Syracuse, which makes me wonder that if they go and survive, whether it'll be just like free and easy Syracuse in the Final Four the next weekend, which is a scary thought. So, but Carolina's beaten them twice already, just got them a couple weeks ago in the ACC semifinals. Carolina made the interesting move. They benched their freshman goalie, Josh Marcus, and started a senior, Kent Good, who had not made a start in his entire career up until Saturday. And so, first-time starter, did well.
Wow.
The big story in that game, obviously, was Dom Petramala scoring 10 goals. Carolina not sure whether or not Owen Duffy is going to be back with his injury that he suffered in the ACC final. So a lot of subplots kind of flowing through that game. But I think that definitely qualifies as a very interesting contest.
Anything else that should be on everybody's radars going into quarterfinal weekend?
Princeton got run by Penn State in their season opener, and Penn State had already played a couple times. And it's a Penn State team that you watch, and they've played better for the last 3 or 4 weeks. They've been more consistent. And we haven't seen a number 1 seed fail to make the Final Four since 2011 when Syracuse got bumped by Maryland in overtime. It's only happened twice total in the entire history of the tournament. And I think that game is a really interesting variable there, the opening game in Newark on Sunday, Princeton and Penn State. And so I think that's a game that shouldn't be overlooked. I think it could be a really fun offensive game, just because Penn State has started to kind of figure it out. They're healthy, and Princeton is loaded with guys, whether it's Chad Palumbo, Tucker Wade might be as good a midfielder as there is in the country. Nate Kabiri, Colin Burns, just a ton of dudes on that offense. And for Princeton, it feels like, there's a real window here after they've been kind of knocking on the door a little bit, to get back. They lost in a quarterfinal last year. Does that experience kind of come to the forefront? And does Penn State make it? I think what would it be? Penn State this would be their third Final Four in 5 years or so,
Yeah.
3rd and 4, something like that. It's pretty good. And, that they're a team that's very comfortable at this stage as well.
Let's play our game. Can Patrick Stevens name the MLB teams that this particular player has played for or managed? And we begin with a manager who somehow lasted a decade with 3 different teams, despite the fact that he never won 90 games. The 3 teams for Pat Corrales.
Pat Corrales was a manager for the Indians for sure.
Yes.
Okay, he was the Phillies manager,
famously, yes,
in like '83 or so.
He was indeed.
And the third stop for Pat Corrales, was he with the Braves?
No, it was the Rangers. Was the other
He was
stop
the
for
Rangers,
Pat
okay.
Corrales, and I had forgotten that as well. That was at the front end. Do you want to do a brutally difficult 5-team one, or you just want to do an easy one?
Let's do a brutally difficult one.
All right. A 2-time All-Star, a bet that I would have lost. 6 teams for Jeff Cirillo.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I said brutally difficult.
You did say brutally difficult. Well, let's knock out the Brewers and the Rockies straight
There
up.
you go.
Right?
There is one other multi-year stint.
There is another multi-year
There
stint? He
is.
was with the Mariners,
He
wasn't
was indeed. You've got all the multi-year stints out, and now you're talking about a combined about 101 games.
How about the Padres?
Indeed, the Padres. You are right about that.
How about the Tigers?
No, not the Tigers.
Not the Tigers? Okay. And the Marlins?
No, the Minnesota and Arizona. Minnesota for 50,
I don't remember
Arizona for
either.
28. And then the 3 teams for the great Larry Walker.
Larry Walker was Cardinals, Expos, and Rockies.
The whole weekend, he's got you covered. Make sure you are following at Discourse, D1S Course, on Blue Sky in particular, also on Twitter. And then USA Lacrosse Magazine and Patrick Stevens. I look forward next week to going over the A to Z of Final Four weekend with you, sir.
I've already started
I
crafting
figured.
some of the possibilities for that, so planning this one out in advance.
I figured that was the case. Always appreciate you. Safe travels this weekend. Let's talk again next week, all right?
Awesome. Take care.
Thanks, buddy. Patrick Stevens with us here on GCR, getting us ready for the quarterfinals. When we come back in, Scott Braun joins us to talk about the Orioles. That's next. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Your car is more than just a ride. It's an investment. At Leading Edge Auto Body in Mount Washington, we've spent over 20 years perfecting the art of repair. From high-end imports to your trusted daily driver, we handle all makes and models with elite precision. Our team holds the highest honors in the industry, including ASE Master, iCar Platinum, and specialized aluminum certifications. We make it easy with free towing, pickup, and delivery, because at Leading Edge, customer satisfaction comes first. And remember, with insurance, it's your car and it's your choice. Choose the experts. Leading Edge Auto Body. Quality you can see. Service you can trust. Go to leadingedgeautobody.com today.
Well, spring and summer have sprung up in Baltimore. That means more than ever it's time to visit one of the 2 great locations in Baltimore for the Costas Inn. The new location at Timonian Fairgrounds next to the OTB has the same great food, ambiance, and hospitality as the original location at 4100 North Point Boulevard in the heart of Dundalk and Sparrows Point. Both are open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner, but remember, it's only the original location for steamed crabs. Take this number down, 410-477-1975 to reserve your slice of Maryland heaven. Make sure you check availability, size, and price point for your next feast. The Costas Inn, always the right choice for dining.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
This is Byron Warnkin. If you've been injured in a car or truck crash, you probably know this is stressful. Medical bills, the insurance company giving you the runaround, you got to get your car fixed. You don't just need a lawyer, you need results. At Warnkin LLC, we represent the injured across Maryland. Whether it's a car or truck crash case, medical malpractice, or any other serious personal injury, we fight for maximum compensation for you and maximum ease for you. You don't want to have to deal with this stuff. Warnkin LLC has been voted best personal injury law firm in Maryland for a reason. For us, 443 Results isn't just a phone number, it's our mission. Get the advocate that you need. Call us today, 443 Results, or visit us online, warnkinlaw.com. That's WARNKENLAW.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Thursday edition of the program. And today's show is also brought to you by the Stand the Fan Variety Hour. Stand the Fan, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson talking baseball with you every Monday. They did a special Tuesday this week, but most every Monday. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. It's brought to you by Warnkin Law and the Costas Inn with two great locations, the OG in Dundalk and the new location in Timonium. I was watching a segment on Foul Territory last week that it really made me giggle a great deal because our next guest was talking about why, he still believed in the Orioles despite the fact that they had just gone and gotten flattened and lost 5 straight, including the embarrassing sweep at the hands of the Yankees. And the guys were talking about, like, why? And he said, well, they can't really pitch or hit or play defense. And yet he believed in them. And I enjoyed this segment so much, I wanted to talk to him about it. He is the host of Foul Territory. He's our friend Scott Braun, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Scott, it's Glenn. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Glenn, I'm glad you brought that up, and thank you for the time. So I have to be able to explain myself and defend my case. Is this my moment?
I think I understood what you were trying to say. The way you said it, I get why the guys were giving you a hard time. Because I think what you were trying to say was they can't continue to be this bad. Like, they just can't. There's too much talent for them to be this bad, particularly offensively. And that's why things can turn around. And as you pointed out, obviously the American League is meh at best. So, like, I get it. It was just a funny way for you to present it. That's all.
Yes, and that's why the delivery is fun when you're on an everyday show and you get to get made fun of by your friends. So I'll go backwards and then I'll work into this. So because I like the first point you brought up. Ready? The White Sox. Yes, the White Sox are 500 this year, and they're in a playoff position right now in the American League. They would not be in a playoff position or really even close to it in the National League. So that is a great step one to state the case. But, Glenn, in all seriousness, here's the part where I'll explain where I'm coming from. At that moment in time, nothing clicking for the Orioles, and still in a better spot after the last few days. But when I'm watching them, I'm like, okay, so many things don't feel like they're in line, yet their record isn't atrocious. Mm-hmm. They haven't dug a hole as bad as last year and relative to the American League that they can't get out of. I don't feel like we've hit any moment where you're like, wow, this team's clicking, they've got it. And I do think they are going to hit that moment at some point in the season where you're like, okay, Bradish is rolling like he is the last couple starts. Rogers is back, and now he's rolling, right? Boz has found his footing with his new team. He's rolling. Bullpen's in a good spot. They figured out the roles and who should be where. And maybe another bat or two is back, or just some of the bats continue to get hot. Pete Alonso goes on one of his home run binges. You start to add up all of those scenarios that are realistic. And that's where you could be like, cool, the Orioles just won 10 out of 12, and now they're in a really nice wild card position. So that was my point where I was like, hey, I've smashed this team in the past. I've smashed them when they went through the really long rebuild, scrap it all down, and lose a generation of fans because you were so damn bad. And then even last year, I thought the team was so poorly constructed, and it was an awful offseason. It had nothing to do with being cheap. They spent money. They just did it wrong. This past offseason, I actually thought they did it right. So a quarter into the season, there is not any sort of let up on my end to think that the Orioles aren't going to compete for a wild card position.
It's an interesting conversation, Scott, because the way you present that, I probably agree with 90% of what you just said. The struggle that I have is this isn't supposed to be a team that's supposed to be competing for a wild card spot, right? Like, that's the difficulty of having the conversation about the Orioles is they won 100 games just 3 years ago, and that was supposed to be the starting point. And the reset is difficult to stomach, and how did you get here from there? Because I think you're right. I do still think this is a team that can compete for a wild card spot, but it feels like the flip side should be, and that's not good enough, and that's not where the 2026 Orioles should be.
That's fair. But the problem is what the Orioles were trying to do is what half the teams in the league try and do when you're scrapping it all down, and then here comes my winning window, and then I'm going to build up into it and not push my chips in as quickly as I should have, like during that 100-win season or even afterward where they were somewhat neglecting big-name starting pitching. This seems to be a common trend, and we even can look up at a team that actually is in a bad spot, like the Mets, despite winning the past couple games. They, too, have made a decision from their front office that they're not going to invest long-term in starting pitching. That's cool. That's risk-averse, and that makes sense in most cases. But how many teams win World Series titles these days without big dogs in October, let alone guys to get you through that stretch? Like, when you go through all of this pain and this tanking as a franchise for so many years, you're doing that and you're saving money and you're building up with draft picks and development and trades so that you can strike at that time. And it was just baffling the way that they approached the winning window at the beginning of the window. Now, you can make a case for where they are in that window. Are they in a worse spot than they were 2-3 years ago? No doubt about it. But that's what they're learning from in my mind. So they corrected some things in the offseason and said, okay, now we actually can't neglect this. They pushed chips in completely on the starting pitching front. No, they didn't. But again, this is the comparison to the Mets. They have a few good starters, but they're not trying to sign anyone for more than like 4 years. I think really most of their guys are like 2 or 3 year deals on starting pitching, and it's like they have a $375 million payroll, and they're just ignoring maybe the most important part of building a franchise. That's not going to work. So I think the Orioles are working on fixing that too. And despite some really ugly looking ERAs, I still think the pitching talent they have, especially on the starting front, is much better than what it looked like a year ago.
We're chatting with Scott Braun from Foul Territory. You can subscribe to Foul Territory on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts for daily coverage of baseball and over 800 player guest appearances in 3 years of the show's existence. Also, make sure you're checking out the new Orioles show on the Foul Territory Network. It's called Birdland Territory. It's got our friends Brad Brock and Tim Barbalace and Steve Molesky are part of that. Scott, what you just said is the part that I have to admit I still struggle with. Because going into the season, I was saying, hey, I don't think this year can be like last year because I think there's too many major league caliber starters in the rotation. I don't think they can bottom out when that's what they're putting on the mound each day. Now, that was obviously tested by early injury to Zach Eflin and some of the injuries they've dealt with since. But I think the bigger problem I'm having is I really do think that it requires more top of the rotation for that to be true. And maybe, and certainly we're hoping in Baltimore that the last 2 starts that we've seen from Kyle Bradish are proof that he can get back to being that guy. But without one of these other guys stepping up as being like a legitimate, reliable, top-of-the-rotation starter, there is still a part of me that's concerned that they don't have enough starting pitching to get through this season.
Yeah, but my counter would be, what problems do you have with Rodgers based on what looked like a decent body of work for a starter these days in the second half of the season when he went on that run? I think that he can – is he going to be that every start, not necessarily, but I think that he is a top 3 starter stuff-wise in this league. And I actually think Shane Baz, potential-wise, is a 2. I think his floor is a 4. So I still think that he's going to come around and be a really solid pitcher for them. Is he going to be a 1? No. And I'm with you, Glenn. Like, we're not disagreeing to a T, right? Should the Orioles have Max Fried from a couple of years ago, or should they have even Framber Valdez that everyone was obsessed with, or Ranger Suarez, right? Like the names that they were looking at and they just didn't want to pay up for them. Absolutely. But I still think that 3 guys I mentioned are a better look than what they had last year, because last year, you got Bradish back late. This should be a better version of him going forward. Again, we're a quarter into the season, so I do think those 3 guys should have a good second half of the year and should be playoff starters if they can get there. Is it perfect? No.
Yeah.
Are they going to win the World Series this year? No, they're not, right? Like, there's better teams. The Yankees are like 7 deep on guys that can start a playoff game, right? They are a much better built team right now, but I don't like the narrative from some Orioles fans that I'm seeing online that it's like, oh, this year's shot, this team stinks. And I'm like, hold up, right? Like, I think this team, especially on the offensive side too, is really going to be a force, as hopefully a guy like Holiday comes back and contributes. Also, Pete's OPS now in the 700s, I think is going to end up more in like the mid 800s.
Yeah.
He's going to go on a home run binge at some point and win you like a week or 2 of games.
No, and I have no doubt that's the case. And by the way, if Shane Baz, and I think part of the problem is I believe that coming in, and he's had 2 good starts in 8 times out to start the season, right? So to your point, if you do get that out of Shane Baz, then undoubtedly my opinion changes. And boy, the Trevor Rogers thing is so complicated because 3 starts into the season, you're like, oh man, he's proven that was no fluke last year. And then the last 4 times out, he's been bad to awful. So like, it's just tough because of the track record that you have to work with. You bring up the offense, and I am largely, again, with you. I am admittedly more concerned. Like, I keep saying Gunnar Henderson has to be better than this. Like, I've been saying it for 3 weeks. Like, I'm concerned, but he's got to be better than this. And then another week goes by where he's not better than that. And then another week goes by where he's not better than that. And another week goes by, and I start to get to a place where I have to acknowledge I'm genuinely concerned about Gunnar Henderson, and I'm more genuinely concerned about why Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman have not performed well at the same time in their careers, and that's just such a strange thing. And I know that somebody would say that's baseball, but it's hard to make sense of why it's been so wildly consistent for these 2 players that we believe are really high level, acknowledging that right now Adley Rutschman looks maybe the best that we've seen in his entire Major League career.
Yeah, and to me, most of that's just coincidence and timing. And it's funny because I was like the attacker for so many years when I was on a show like yours or on radio stations out there, and now I feel like I'm like
you're the defense.
Yeah, but
right.
It's funny, but for me, I take a lot more of the Adley playing like this versus the Gunnar struggling. Gunnar, at least specifically when I was reading an article about him the other day and just watching his ABs, they're attacking him low. He's fighting at the bottom or even out of the zone and making poor swing decisions that he wasn't doing in the past, striking out more often. To me, that seems like something correctable. I can never speak to if somebody's hurt too, but I don't think that's really the case here. So if I'm betting on Gunnar Henderson rebounding pretty significantly, I feel really good about it. That's why me, Glenn, I take so much more out of Adley suddenly putting together whatever he's got right now, 900 or 1,000 OPS, whatever it is so much better. It looks so much better than it did the previous 2 years, that even if both players kind of regress a little bit to where they should be, Adley Rutschman being, an 850 OPS guy versus a 700 OPS guy is a massive difference for this lineup, and I do think Gunnar's going to get back to looking like an all-star. Is he going to be an MVP-type performer like he was in the past this year? I can't speak to that, but again, I think the floor is this is going to be an all-star caliber guy in the lineup. So that's why I'm excited. I'm like, okay, in the summertime at some point, if Adley's still doing big things like this and Gunnar rebounds and Pete goes on a run and Jackson comes back and plays pretty well, and Taylor Ward's one of the streakiest hitters in baseball, 3 true outcome, sometimes frustrating to watch, but he also goes on those binges. I'm like, this is going to work. This offense is going to bang. I'm much less concerned maybe than other fans are. And I didn't know if Adley was going to rebound like this. It got too long, right, Glenn? Like this was 2 years.
Yep.
Wait, is this who that guy is? Has he regressed? And the fact that we're seeing this for a quarter of the year now, to me, means that he's still got it. It's not like the league has completely figured him out. So I'm pretty excited about it. I know there were a lot of rumors for like the last 2 years also. Like, is he hurt? And, you're not hearing that, and you never know. I mean, Cal Riley's going through that right now where he was atrocious the first couple months, and now we're finding out that he was pretty hurt. So that's part of the story. But I'm excited. I think this team is going to finish, let's put an exact number on it, 8th in runs per game. That's really good.
It's wild too because Taylor Ward, like the only of the true outcomes we've really seen from Taylor Ward has been the walks, right? Like he's been more of the on base machine to start the season, while Gunnar Henderson's kind of been the natural outcome. We're living in bizarro times, man. We're living in really strange times. Scott, if the pitching, if we're still having these questions, and again, I'm hoping that Kyle Bradish is what we're seeing right now is him reestablishing, and this is what he's going to be. But if they're still in this spot, is frontline pitching going to be available at the deadline this year? And the problem obviously being that everybody's going to want it if it is, but is there really going to be that type of pitching? Not the back end, the guys the Orioles have, right? Like the 4th or 5th starters, but like, is there genuinely going to be frontline pitching available at the deadline this year?
Yeah, it's a good question. And guess what? I think there is the potential for a lot of it to be available. So if you're an Orioles fan, that's going to be a focus, right? They're going to focus on starters, and they're going to focus on probably a high leverage arm or two as well. I haven't done as much research on the closer front yet or on the high leverage reliever front, but there's always guys available. I'm less worried about that. Here's where fans should be excited. I think there are a lot of starting pitchers that could get moved at the deadline depending on how things shake out over the next month. I'll give you 2 examples of teams that could be very sexy and popular, right? The Mets. The Mets look overall to start this season pretty terrible, okay? They have Freddie Peralta, who should pitch playoff games for you and who can help a team down the stretch. He is a floor number 2 starter, ceiling number 1 starter. He was number 1 for most of last year. Battle-tested. He's great. Clay Holmes, one of the best starters in baseball right now, not getting talked about. If the Mets stink, he's definitely getting moved. He's got a player option for next year. He's not going to take it. He's going to take free agency. The San Francisco Giants, Robbie Ray, healing. Mid-2 ERA, looks as good as he's ever looked. Maybe the Cy Young season obviously better, but like he looks like vintage Robbie Ray right now, and he's healthy. There's a chance, I don't think this happens, but I'm just going team by team here, that Logan Webb gets dealt. He's got more years on him, and I think the Orioles aren't a great fit for him. I think the Cubs team is better fit because they're significantly better on defense than the Orioles, and he's a ground ball guy. But then Contra of the Marlins, like we can do this dance for a while. I can come up with probably at least 5 to 7 starters that would be a huge deal acquisition for Baltimore, both down the stretch and in a playoff. So I actually think this year's going to be pretty good for it. Now, when you do the math, are 1 or 2 of the teams that we're looking at going to actually be in the playoff race? Like, will the Marlins hang around the wild card and not trade Sandy? Maybe. But my point is, there's enough out there that is going to hit free agency this year or is close enough to free agency on a crappy team that Orioles fans are going to be following a lot on the trade front with starters.
Scott, what's coming up on Foul Territory today?
What is coming up? Well, first off, before that, I'm about to park into the studio, and I'll be on Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal, same channel on YouTube, so we'll be live on there, and we'll go through a number of Grill and Ken, so fan questions and answers and stuff like that. And we're starting off talking about Ohtani and Miz last night. Jacob Mizraowski was insane. He's just chucking 102 to finish his outing in the 7th inning. So we'll do a lot of that. Trying to remember from Foul Territory we have on the guest list front. Blanking right now because I've been in meetings all morning. But check our Twitter. We've got it all posted on there. That's how crazy my mornings are sometimes, hopping on different shows. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. You know, we've got players on almost every day. And then, insider Robert Murray, who's on our team as well, who does a great job and came out with a bunch of notes this morning. So if you want some of that talk that we're going over right now in terms of, early trade conversations and who could be up for grabs in a month and a half from now, Ken Rosenthal for 30 minutes, and then you'll get Robert Murray during that 1 o'clock hour. That's a pretty good look at what's going on. Yeah,
And that Twitter account is Foul Territory TV. Scott Braun, appreciate you, man. Appreciate the positivity that you're now offering to the conversation. That is fun. And let's do this again real soon, all right?
Thank you. Appreciate you. Have a good day, man.
That's Scott Braun, Foul Territory. You can check that out again every day. And Foul Territory TV is the social media handle. Appreciate him taking the time for us. Yeah, what is Shohei Ohtani's ERA? It's like 0.8.
0.8, yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts, man.
Kinda.
It's insane. Do you see I think it's the Athletics have a prospect that is pitching, hitting, and playing in the outfield?
Oh, really? I did not see that guy.
I can't remember the guy's name, but there was a lot made. Hang on.
Pitching. I mean, it's just two-way prospect Shotaro Mori.
That sounds right.
Actively developing as a pitcher, hitter, and infielder.
Infielder?
No way.
Holy smokes.
I know.
What level is he at?
Other top prospect. Where is he? He began his pro career in 2025, so probably.
It's probably low.
Yeah, probably low.
Yeah. I can't imagine that continues. I just can't imagine. Like, the Ohtani thing only happened because you had seen him do it at a high level, and so they said, all right,
Currently single A. Yeah, listed as a second baseman / right-handed pitcher.
But remember, when Ohtani came over, we were kind of treating it like Travis Hunter. We said, all right, we think they'll give him a shot to do both.
19 years old, this kid.
And again, if I'm a betting man, he doesn't do all of those things in the major leagues. I don't even know if he's going to make the major leagues. But we all said we thought it was a unique experiment with Shohei Ohtani. Like, yeah, give it a shot. But we did then say at some point we think they'll have him focus on whatever it is. And as it turns out, that wasn't the case. So who knows? Who knows? But
no, he literally got promoted to single A this week. So he was
or to high A.
No, he was at.
He was in rookie league.
Yeah,
ball.
he was in rookie
okay.
ball.
All right, so he's at low A now.
Yeah,
yeah. It seems
his offensive numbers at rookie ball were 750 OPS.
I mean, no. Like if he
actually didn't play a whole lot, so he actually just kind of maybe he was hurt or something. I don't know.
He's 19. To be fair,
yeah,
he's 19 years old. But it's interesting and something to keep an eye on. I was trying to think I feel like there was something else baseball-wise that happened yesterday that caught my eye, and I've already forgotten. So, what do we do now? Dance? Maybe we dance.
I guess
you got something prepared?
No, I'm trying to think of what happened in baseball that was fun. Gavin Sheets had a big 3-run homer.
He did.
The Padres after Miz went 7 scoreless.
Yeah, right.
His bullpen blew it. And holy Sheets!
I had somebody say you should throw in like a little bit of money on Mizerovsky to win the Cy Young.
I know that's what I was about to say. Like, how bad is the American League this year? Like, who's the Cy? There's no Cy Young favorite. There in the National League, you have 3. You have Ohtani, you have Skeens, you have Miz.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
The American League's terrible. Which I guess is we're lucky that we're in it this year. I guess
it gives you time. Although, as we keep saying, I don't know that all of these teams will continue to be this terrible as the season goes on. Like, I don't think.
Well, yeah.
Like, if we're saying that we don't think Gunnar Henderson can be this bad, then there's no way that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. can continue to be this bad, right? Like, I just think there's a lot of guys that are underperforming at a level that I don't think will continue for the entirety of the season. So, that's kind of where I'm at. Big win, obviously, on the road last night for Cleveland. A little bit of controversy at the end of regulation. After the Pistons threw up all over themselves. They had like a 9-point lead with 2 minutes to play, and then they just stopped scoring. Just stopped. Couldn't score. They were getting open looks and couldn't make them. They also really haven't lost possessions that were going nowhere. And the Cavaliers tie it up. Then they waste another possession, 2 chances at the end of the game, and then Cavaliers have the ball and a great block, but there appears to be a foul. Seems pretty clear that it was a foul. And it goes uncalled. Yeah, this is how kind of the fourth quarter came unglued. But yeah, that's the spot, right? So tie game late. This is ESPN? Yeah, courtesy of ESPN. Tie game late. Cavs have the ball. Chance to win it. And you see this sequence play out. Ball stripped away.
Oh, yeah.
That's a foul.
Was Allen?
Like, that's a foul.
I guess they did replay.
And nothing gets called. Nothing. And this is tough because the Pistons have no one to blame but themselves. They threw up all over themselves down the stretch. But still, like, that's a foul. And it's one of those weird, but do we, this is what's, but do you want the game to be decided that way? Like, he's nowhere near the basket. Like, I know what you think you're saying when you say that, but a foul is a foul. It's a very difficult conversation to have. And that was a foul, undoubtedly. Wasn't called. Cavaliers win in overtime. They get a chance to go back to Cleveland, where I don't think have lost in the postseason.
They must not have, because that was their first road win.
It was their first road win.
It was their first road win of the whole run.
So they get a chance to go back to Cleveland and try to wrap it up in Game 6 and advance to face the Knicks. No playoff games tonight.
In basketball.
I don't know.
Hockey doubleheader.
There is that. But I'm like, there's this part of me that's like, are they really afraid of going up against the NFL schedule?
Nah, that's not it, right? Well, because
you say that
they're giving 2 days off in the
it
San
should be
Antonio
Timberwolves
series?
Spurs tonight.
Oh.
Yeah. Why is that not tonight? Now,
I don't know.
the other thought would be they moved it to Friday so that
they could have a basketball doubleheader.
But why is that more valuable than having a? Why is it more valuable to start a game at 9:30? And these playoff games have been going 3 hours, man. Like with all the commercials and then the reviews. Last night obviously went into overtime. Last night's game was on after 11 o'clock. Why is it more valuable to have a doubleheader than it would be to have a game every night? I'm very confused by why there's no game tonight. Like it makes no sense.
Should we call Mr. NBA?
Yeah. Who is Drew?
Yeah. Drew, what's going on?
Can you get to the bottom of this, please?
I mean, I guess that going into this series, they must have known that San Antonio was going to have 2 days, or the San Antonio series was going to have 2 days.
But why?
Between, I don't know.
And they kick
What
concert.
channel is it on tomorrow?
Like,
is it a Prime thing, or
it's
is it
Prime? Yes. So it's not like there's something else on the network. It makes no sense. They could do. If somebody said, "Well, Prime has to have it," well, then just do it on Prime tonight. What am I missing here? And the answer could be, well, there was something going on in the arena. This is Game 6, so this would be Minnesota. Oh, did they have hockey last night?
Last night, yeah, but
was it in Minnesota or was it in Denver? I thought it was.
Colorado closed out.
I know they won, but that was Game 5, right?
Yeah.
So that should have been back in Denver. Yeah. So what the hell, man? And actually, now that I think about it,
they were in Colorado last.
Are there 2 arenas in Minnesota? Do they have? Are they like the way it was in Phoenix?
Let's see where Minnesota plays their games.
I think there's 2 arenas in Minnesota.
Minnesota plays at the Grand Casino Arena.
Yeah,
in
that's
St.
just
Paul.
for hockey. They don't even share the arena.
Well,
so what am I missing? Like, what the hell?
Minnesota plays in the Target Center in
Yeah.
Minneapolis. Different cities.
What am I missing?
They could have games on the same night.
Why was there no basketball tonight? The hell is going on around here? That means there's no basketball Saturday either.
Yeah.
So, like, normally when the
Game
Preakness ends, you would flip over and watch whatever the NBA game is.
Said you got to watch MMA, I guess. That's
yeah. Is that the Gina Carano?
Yeah, it's their
and
MVP.
MMA.
Well, yeah, Gina Carano. Then you have Francis versus some horrible guy.
Okay,
Lins.
you're selling it well.
He's gonna. Well, I mean, if you want to see Francis and
really
Guile,
making me regret
he's
not
gonna
bringing
maul.
back.
He's gonna maul this guy. So
okay.
And then of course Nate Diaz and
sure.
and Mike Perry, Platinum Mike Perry.
Sure. Selling it. Really selling it for me.
You don't want to see Nate Diaz?
I'm good.
Come on.
I'm good.
You don't want to hear him get on the mic and not understand a single word that he says?
If you want to say like am I more likely to watch this or a UFC fight? Yeah, I'm more likely at this point in my life to watch this than a UFC fight. But
it's sometimes still good UFC fights.
It's still not good.
God, you should see the UFC card they're throwing out this weekend in the Apex. Ugh. God. It's like
guess who's definitively not going to see that?
Me, yeah.
Okay. That makes 2 of us.
I'm watching the real MMA.
You're watching. How old is Gina Carano?
She's 40 something.
Yeah.
She's old.
Definitely something we should be doing. Definitely.
But I mean, Ronda's obviously she is.
Didn't I
44? Gina Carano's 44.
Who did I see? Ronda's got to be 39, something like that. 40
so.
maybe. And are we doing?
And she hasn't won. She's 39. Yeah. Jesus. And she hasn't won since like.
Yeah. She's not a
over
fighter.
decade. Yeah. I mean, it's like yeah, she's the younger one, but she hasn't.
Right. I know.
Good since.
And who's Floyd Mayweather going to fight when we're doing old man fights? There's definitely a Floyd Mayweather old man fight.
We're not doing. Is he fighting Pacquiao again or
Pacquiao? That's exactly what it is.
That's kind of sick.
No, it's not.
Well, I mean, it's
not.
It's hilarious that they're fighting again.
It's not sick. It's it is. You know what? It's sick, but it's a different type of sick. We're just doing old man fights.
September 26th.
They're a combined 96 years old.
And then we get Jake versus Joshua. In December.
I hate it here.
I doubt it. We'll see if that one happens.
I hate it.
Just because I feel like his fights always get postponed.
So embarrassing. What an embarrassing society.
49-year-old Floyd versus 47-year-old Manny.
Oh, is he the one that have a birthday before then?
No, I believe it. Maybe they do. I don't know.
All right. Hell of a time. There you go. That's the return of fighting.
Aren't you glad this is the era that we live in? Floyd will be definitively 49.
All right.
Manny will be definitively. Where's his birthday? Yeah, he'll be definitively 47.
Right. Very good. Come back in, get a tidbit and tubular to wind things down for a Thursday edition. Oh, and Josh Cuevas, Ravens rookie tight end, going to join us as well. That's all coming up on Glenn Clark Radio.
This is Stan the Fan. You know we talk all the time about our O's stepping up in the big moments, delivering when it matters most. If you've been injured in a car accident anywhere around Baltimore, that's your big moment, and you need someone who delivers. That's why I'm here to tell you about Warnken Injury Lawyers. They fight for Baltimore families every single day. Insurance companies play games. Warnken plays to win. So call 443-RESULTS. That's 443-RESULTS, or go to warnkenlaw.com. When you need results, it's right there in the number, 443-RESULTS.
Your car is more than just a ride. It's an investment. At Leading Edge Auto Body in Mount Washington, we've spent over 20 years perfecting the art of repair. From high-end imports to your trusted daily driver, we handle all makes and models with elite precision. Our team holds the highest honors in the industry, including ASE Master, iCar Platinum, and specialized aluminum certifications. We make it easy with free towing, pickup, and delivery, because at Leading Edge, customer satisfaction comes first. And remember, with insurance, it's your car and it's your choice. Choose the experts. Leading Edge Auto Body. Quality you can see. Service you can trust. Go to leadingedgeautobody.com today.
Well, spring and summer have sprung up in Baltimore. That means more than ever it's time to visit one of the two great locations in Baltimore for the Costas Inn. The new location at Timonian Fairgrounds next to the OTB has the same great food, ambiance, and hospitality as the original location at 4100 North Point Boulevard in the heart of Dundalk and Sparrows Point. Both are open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner, but remember, it's only the original location for steamed crabs. Take this number down, 410-477-1975 to reserve your slice of Maryland heaven. Make sure you check availability, size, and price point for your next feast. The Costas Inn, always the right choice for dining.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Bill Ordine dives in on how different Preakness will be temporarily at Laurel Park, and then long-term once it returns to Pimlico. Also inside, Luke Jackson learns more about what Trey Hendrickson will bring to the Ravens. And Karuga Koinange looks at how Samuel Basayo is influencing the Orioles' international signing efforts. Press Box is available for free at over 250 locations throughout the region, including your Baltimore area High's Dairy stores. Plus, you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, Talking Sports.
Back in here on GCR as we're winding down for a Thursday edition of the program. Why don't we go ahead and get a tidbit? Tidbit is brought to you by countysports.zone. Congratulations to Archbishop Spalding for winning the A-Conference Baseball Championship. Find out more about that this Friday night's A-Conference Lacrosse Championship matchup between Calvert Hall and McDonough, and much more by going to countysports.zone. Proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com.
Let's go with, I guess since we'll be chatting with Josh Cuevas here in a second, let's do our, I do it each year around this time, I guess, when I ask you what Raven in his first year with the Ravens has had the most receiving yards in his first season with the Ravens. So whenever we're talking about
whether it was a free agent or a
rookie,
Raven in his first year.
First year as a Baltimore Raven.
And you're just looking for one, or you're looking for?
There are 6 guys that have had 1,000 yards in year 1 as a Raven.
Mike Wallace was one of them, right?
He was, yeah. You're starting to memorize it now. Good job.
Well, I always remember that Mike Wallace had a random 1,000-yard.
1,017 in 2016. Mike Wallace.
Steve Smith.
Steve Smith had 1065 in 2014.
Hollywood Brown.
He's number 5. Marquise Brown did not. He was 2019. He had 584. Yeah. 14th.
Didn't really throw the ball, I guess, in 2019 now that I think about it. How about... So does this count like Derek Alexander, Michael Jackson in 96? Because
was that their first year at Ravens?
I mean,
yeah, it does.
It's a bad list if that's the case.
Why is it a bad list?
They were with the franchise. This was just the franchise move.
It was their first year as Baltimore Ravens.
Michael Jackson.
Yes, 1,200 yards.
Derek Alexander.
Number 3 on the list, Derek Alexander, 1099. 2 other guys in the top 6 here.
I'll still say Mace.
Mason is number 4, 1,073 in 2005.
Torrey
is in the next grouping. There were 10 guys with 800 plus, and Torrey had 841. 8th on the list.
Zay
is also in that 800 grouping. 858 for Zay. Number 7.
Mark Clayton.
Not Mark Clayton. Where did Mark Clayton land on this list?
You said they all had 1,000 yards?
Yeah. Top.
Now I gotta remember who else had 1,000 yards. It wasn't Kadri.
Yes, Kadri.
Okay.
Number 2 on the list. He had 1,000. I think he had 1,100. Where's Kadri? Yeah, 1,105 for Kadri. 2 other guys in that 800 group. If you want number 9 and number 10 on the list here, go get them. Come on, get them.
Anquan.
Yes, Anquan Bolden. Clayton had 471 yards, by the way.
And the other one of the 800
23rd.
800 yards.
837 for Bolden. He's number 9, and this guy had 810 yards in his first season as a Raven.
Shannon Sharp.
Oh, okay. 2000.
All right.
Yeah.
How about that?
You want to get number 11?
Shut up.
It was all the next 3 guys on the list were all those 2018 guys. John Brown, Willie Steen, and Crabtree all had 600 to 700 yards.
Sounds about right. That's exactly what they were.
So we'll see. Good luck to Jacoby Lane, Elijah Surratt, Matt Hibner, or Josh Cuevas, or maybe Stephon Diggs or somebody else.
That's a good point.
Who could join who could jump into the top rankers in that list.
Tidbit was also brought to you by the print issue of Press Box, which is available for free at your Baltimore area High's Dairy stores, anywhere around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. It's Preakness Week. Good time to pick up this issue with that great cover story from Bill Ordine. Go get it right now. All right, let's get tubular.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
Here's what's coming up totally tubular-wise. Again, no Orioles, no NBA, but you do get the NFL schedule release.
Let's go. What time, or is it probably going to be before whenever it's official?
It'll be on social media, and then there'll be some shows talking about it on ESPN and NFL Network at 8 o'clock.
I got to set my alarms, yeah.
Right now, Hopkins trailing Stony Brook. Not a great start in the NCAA Women's Lacrosse quarterfinals. Stony Brook with a 3-0 lead. That game on ESPNU. Later on this afternoon, Navy and Maryland, 5 o'clock, also on ESPNU. PGA Championship underway on ESPN and shifts to ESPN2 at 7 o'clock. And Canadiens Sabres Game 5 at 7. Golden Knights Ducks Game 6, 9:30. Both of those on TNT and True TV. Non-sports.
We've got, I guess, kind of sports adjacent. Welcome to Wrexham, Season 5.
I do love Welcome to Wrexham.
That'll be at 9 o'clock on FXXX and then Hulu as well tomorrow. Hacks, and, there's other big ones. Not a whole lot else tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
Thanks today to...
SNL finale on Saturday. And then,
okay. Thanks today to, who joined us today? Patrick Stevens joined us today. Scott Braun joined us today, and we're about to hear from Josh Cuevas. We'll get all that up in the greatest hits section of the...
Colbert's going to have Letterman and the Strokes on tonight.
Tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. I absolutely would go to that tour. I'm torn on the Strokes because, I don't love them, but I would still go because I love Letterman, and I would watch the Strokes in that context. Yes, I would go. Off tomorrow, but I'll be in for C4 on C4 and Brian Neiman tomorrow morning on WBAL. So if you're awake at 5:30 in the morning, 1, why? But 2, hang out with us. And the regular stuff, Bat Around, Stan, all that coming up. And back on Monday, Stuff and Things.
Yeah.
Stuff and Things. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including the Baltimore Orioles, Costas Inn, Leading Edge Auto Body, Baltimore area highest dairy stores, Warnken Law, 1-800-GAMBLER, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Cruise Maryland, CountySports.zone, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. And don't forget, YouTube.com/@Rita and Glenn. We're going to do a live show tonight after the schedule is announced. So come and hang out with us there. And if you want to be a part of it, let me know, and we'll send you an invite. Then you could hop on and join the show and react to the schedule tonight with us. All right. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Thursday evening. Go Hopkins women. Go Maryland or Navy women. Duke sucks. We wrap up today's show. Had to do this a little bit earlier on, but an opportunity to catch up with one of the newest Baltimore Ravens, tight end Josh Cuevas out of Alabama, right here on GCR.
Well, it's a pleasure now to meet another one of the Baltimore Ravens rookies for 2026. He heard his name called in the 5th round of the draft. He is a tight end out of Alabama by way of Washington, by way of Cal Poly, but really Baltimore is the home that matters at this point. He's Josh Cuevas, and he's with us now here on GCR. Josh, it's Glenn. It's great to meet you, man. Thank you so much for taking the time for us.
No, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on.
Josh, I have been diving in on your story, man, and it's really wild to me. The idea that a human being that looks like you and can play football the way that you can play football did not have a lot of opportunities ahead of him coming out of high school. Can you kind of take me back to that moment? And if I had told you then, hey, by the way, in a couple of years, you're about to be a Baltimore Raven, what would you have said to me at that point?
Yeah, honestly, it was never really kind of in the cards for me when in reality, kind of just looking at my story and kind of how I grew up. But I mean, it was so surreal kind of hearing my name called and, looking back at my process and, the things I've been through, the adversity that I've had to face. But, I've had good people around me and I'm thankful that I'm in the position that I am now. And I couldn't be any happier here in Baltimore.
Is it as simple as you just needed the opportunity, or did something about you, your game, also need to change from that point to give you this chance to now be in the NFL?
Yeah, I feel though as though like I just needed one opportunity. I just needed to get my foot in the door, and then I'm gonna run with it. I've done that at every single place that I've been. When I went to Cal Poly, I was an extremely just kind of raw athlete, and I didn't start playing tackle football until my freshman year of high school. So I didn't really know the ins and outs of football. The X's and O's. My football IQ, wasn't where other people my age at the time would have been. So Cal Poly really kind of had to turn me into kind of a football player. But yeah, that one opportunity that I got to go to Cal Poly, recruitment was during COVID. So not a lot of coaches could really see me. And, I was dependent on, sending emails, sending videos of me catching balls, running routes, things like that. But I mean, they gave me an opportunity and I completely ran with it. And then had a good sophomore year there, and then ended up having the opportunity to go to Washington, play at the FBS level. And some of the most fun times I had playing football, going to the national championship with that 2023 Washington team, meeting all those guys, playing with Roger Rosengarten, who I got to see back over here, meeting up with him again. It's been great. But yeah, I just needed one opportunity at Washington, and I ended up getting it. Did a lot of special teams, big special teams guy over there. Had a few plays on offense going into the year. Then finally, that opportunity at Bama arose, and I ended up taking that as well. So I definitely say a lot of this was definitely just kind of having one opportunity, getting one foot in the door, and then just running with it. So hopefully I can do that here and have a successful career with the Ravens.
That's so well said, Josh. That's so cool, right? At any point when you were going through that, when you were writing to coaches and that, did you ever have a moment where you thought maybe it's not worth it? Like maybe I'm trying too hard and it's just not meant to be? Or were you always, I know I'm going to get the chance and I know when I do, I'm going to make the most of it?
Yeah, it's pretty much the latter of what you said. I never really let a negative thought kind of complete itself in my mind. And I just kind of kept pushing, kept pushing, kept pushing. And I was really reliant on my high school coach. He had actually played at UCLA himself. He had great connections, stuff like that. So he was getting coaches to kind of reach out to me, just kind of see this guy. At the time, just extremely raw athlete, just pretty much bigger than everybody around him at the school that he went to, and just kind of selling me as a guy that you couldn't pass up on. And I was extremely grateful for that because Cal Poly ended up pulling the trigger on me. But, going through that entire recruiting process, there was some doubt for sure. But I had reassurances from my parents, from friends, from other family members, like, you got this. Something's going to come up. Because the dream was always play a professional sport, no matter what it was. I played baseball, I played basketball, I played water polo, and then ultimately I ended up playing football. So I felt as though I was going to get an opportunity at least one of those. But that was kind of like my thought process throughout that whole recruiting process, and it was just never let a negative thought complete itself in my mind.
Man, that'll stay with you, right? That'll stay with you.
Absolutely.
Josh Cuevas, the Baltimore Ravens, is with us here on GCR. Josh, that process going through it, I can hear how it's shaped and molded you, right? But like, I would assume that you're falling back on some of those feelings. You come in as a fifth round pick, nothing is guaranteed, right? Like I assume that you're open to that you welcome that and say, I love that I've got to go prove myself because I'm pretty good at going and proving myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, nothing in my life or, what I've been told my entire life, nothing is guaranteed. Absolutely not. You still have to put in the work. You get here, you're a rookie, you're a small fish in a large, pretty much ocean now with the professional side of it. But yeah, nothing's guaranteed. So, I mean, you can talk the talk, but I mean, it's really about putting in the work and kind of earning the trust of, the coaching staff, the coordinators, and your quarterback really, and your room as well. So, I mean, I kind of expected anywhere I went, coming in as a rookie, didn't matter if I was a first round pick, if I was a seventh round pick or fifth round pick, I knew I had to put in the work. And ultimately I've been doing that my entire life. So, and look where it's got me. So.
Oh, no doubt about it. Josh, a lot has been made about your versatility and the way that teams can use you, that it's not just, we think about the tight end position and like it's anything from guys that are basically lining up outside as wide receivers. And Isaiah did a lot of that during his time here to, I know you've referenced like I could play some H-back, like if
Yeah.
that's what they needed from me. What is it? How do you become that type of versatile? And how confident are you that those skills translate to the NFL, that you can do any of those things as called upon in Declan Doyle's offense?
Yeah, it's really comes down to your willingness to do it. At Alabama they used me as a very versatile tight end. Like you said, lining me up outside, lining me up at H back. But it was more so about my willingness to do it, and the coaches saw that, and having the confidence of diving into it 100% and really just putting yourself in that position to be successful in your preparation and your kind of mindset going into it. So a lot of it was majority of just your willingness to do it. And the coaches saw that in me. And ultimately it opened up many doors for me to line up outside or, line up in the slot, in line, attached to the hip or, in the backfield. And through that willingness, it really caught the attention of the coaches and it earned their trust pretty quick.
I mean, I can only imagine that like that's going to be something that's going to be very beneficial for you moving towards the pro side of your career. I was talking to Matt Hibner last week, and he said you guys actually got the opportunity, maybe in the process, to get to know each other a little bit, and
We did.
that's kind of carried over. Can you tell me what that means to you? Obviously, hey, this is pro ball. Everything's a competition, but what it means to have someone that's going through it the same way that you are, that maybe you've gotten to know a little bit, and that you can kind of go through this thing together as you make this adjustment to the pro level.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it really is a competition between one another, but we understand that we're kind of in the same position right now. Coming into a new system, learning the playbook, learning new terms, and I mean, they're being thrown at us from every which direction. So just kind of getting together and already having that solid foundation from us meeting at the Senior Bowl and the Combine, like it definitely helps a lot. Just kind of starting conversation and getting things going. There was really not that kind of awkward stage of, hey, nice to meet you. Like, my name is Matt or my name is Josh, like, something like that. There was never really any of that. So, I mean, once we got here, we just kind of said what's up to each other and kind of embraced each other like with open arms. And we knew what we were about to get into. So at that point, it was really just kind of putting in the work and just trying to help each other out, learn the playbook, bouncing ideas off of one another, and really just using each other as tools to really kind of succeed going into this rookie year.
It's interesting. I'm assuming you're in the facility right now, right, Jeff?
I am. I'm in the tight end room. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking up at this picture
Yeah.
of Mark up above you. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, like,
Yeah.
this organization, the history with tight ends, Mark right now, but he was part of a draft class with two tight ends, right, with him and Hayden Hurst. But the number of guys, Nick Boyle, one of the great blocking tight ends of this era, and obviously a Hall of Famer, and Shannon Sharp, and Dennis Pitta, and Todd Heap. It goes on and on and on. I know that coaches change and there's new coaches even this year. So like nothing, but like, does that register with you at all? Like when you and when you find out it's Baltimore, I'm sure there's excitement about Lamar Jackson. There's excitement about a winning franchise, but does their history with the tight end position register with you in particular when you get that call?
Absolutely. I mean, kind of when you think about the Baltimore Ravens organization, there's a rich history of good tight ends within this program. And being able to learn from, somebody like Mark Andrews, who's been through it, who's on his, I think, 9th season now. So, I mean, he's a seasoned vet. He knows what it takes to kind of get to a championship, get to that level. And ultimately, that's what I'm really looking for. And just kind of being a sponge early on and just taking in information and kind of learning the ropes of how to be that NFL tight end. And I mean, you really can't ask for anybody better to learn other than Mark Andrews. And, somebody who's done it before, somebody who's kind of, like I said, teaching you the ins and outs and, showing you how to practice and how to play and how to prep your body for practices and, just kind of seeing his work ethic around the building. And you're trying to emulate that. So immediately kind of walking into the building, you have all these different role models. You have all these pictures around the tight end room of all these great tight ends. And there's not a single second that you're going to forget that tight ends are a valuable position in this offense, and hopefully it continues to be that way.
And you got the opportunity to meet Ozzy?
I did a few times. Yeah.
Man, like what obviously you didn't watch Ozzy. Like I recognize that you're far too young to have been able to watch Ozzy, but I know that he could be the governor of Alabama at any point if he chose to run.
Absolutely.
What does that mean to you that now, like again, you say a couple of times, like you're just around Ozzy Newsome, like he's kind of part of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I never in a million years would I have thought. I mean, we continuously talk about, or we had talked about all the different tight end records that were held at Alabama and all the guys that kind of went through the tight end room. And I mean, Ozzie Newsome, he's the number one guy up there. So once I got that call on draft day and Ozzie hopped on the phone, I kind of knew that I was going to be in a good space for myself and, my future, just because I had another Alabama guy in the building. Seeing him at that first rookie minicamp practice, just out there observing the practice. And, first thing he says to me is roll tide, man. And, all you can do is kind of give him a roll tide, shake his hand. It's like, man, it's so nice to meet you. And we've talked about you a million times at Alabama. And I mean, they're going to continue to talk about him because, I mean, he created a legacy. And I mean, having that just a legend walk around the building, it's something surreal. And, not a lot of programs really have that. But I'm grateful that I have Ozzie Newsome around. And, I'm able to bounce ideas off of him whenever he's around. And he's an open book.
That's really cool, man. It is really cool to hear you talk about that and what that must mean. I'm assuming the other Alabama guys, obviously, you clearly did not play with Derrick Henry or Marlon Humphrey. But like at any point, did you meet any of those guys? Did they ever come back? Did you have a conversation? And like, have you kind of thought about what that means that you're going to be on the same team with a couple of Alabama legends like that?
Yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, there's a little bit of a scarcity within the Ravens program of Alabama players. I mean, you have Marlon and
it's so
Derrick.
crazy. It's so crazy you said that because somebody would say, well, wait, there's three, right? But like in Ravens history, I don't know, because obviously Ozzie is like, that's probably the fewest there's ever been.
Yeah,
Ravens
really.
guys.
I mean, and you have other teams like the Philadelphia Eagles who, I mean, they're pretty much, their roster is made up of like Alabama, Georgia guys and, stuff like that. But I did get to meet Derrick Henry during one of these earlier in the week during one of these practices. He's a man of few words, I will say that. But, kind of came up to me, he's just asking me, were you at Bama? Like, how long were you at Bama? Stuff like that. And we were just kind of chopping it up a little bit. It was a little short conversation just because we had to get to work pretty soon. But, he's a great guy, great conversation. Kind of left the conversation with, B-Sci Phi for life, which is pretty much the football kind of fraternity that Alabama has.
Okay. I've never heard of it. It's B-Side 5 for life. That's what
B-Sci Phi. Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there a story behind that or?
I'm not really sure kind of like who created the foundation of it, but anybody who kind of rolls through the Alabama football program, they're a part of that brotherhood. They're a part of that fraternity of guys who've went through that program, because being in Alabama, it's no easy feat. So kind of creating that togetherness and, having other guys that, are in the same position as you and you can grow and kind of develop together. It truly means something. So whenever we kind of say like B-Sci Phi, it really means a brotherhood. And so with these other like Alabama football alumni like Derrick Henry and Marlon Humphrey, it's a forever kind of thing. It's a forever brotherhood. So that's kind of like the true meaning behind it.
That's really cool, man. I love that. Josh, I brought it up earlier, but I need to hear it in your words. You're going to be catching passes from Lamar Jackson. Like what does that mean? How does that hit you when, again, you get the process? I'm not just in the NFL. I'm a Baltimore Raven. Lamar Jackson is my quarterback.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. I mean, when I got drafted to the Ravens, a bunch of my family and friends were around me, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're gonna meet Lamar Jackson. You're gonna meet all these different guys." But I mean, the first name that always comes up is Lamar Jackson, and I mean, it's not something that you take lightly. Absolutely not. But everybody knows he's one of a kind, legendary quarterback. one of the best in the league right now, if not the best. So, just kind of like myself in my position right now, it's kind of all about earning his trust and him being able to feel confident that if he throws a ball my way, we're going to get yards, we're going to secure a catch, something like that. But, kind of he's also somebody that I kind of want to emulate like my process around and kind of see how, because I mean, he's had so much success and he's going to continue to have a lot of success. But his process is how he gets to that success. So kind of looking around, seeing all these other different guys and learning from one of the best is definitely something that I want to do. And so, like I said earlier, kind of being that sponge and just kind of being around those guys, it's a pretty crazy feeling, knowing how far I've come to kind of get in this position. But at the end of the day, we're all teammates. We're all trying to strive for the same goal, and we're gonna do everything in our power to really get to what we want. And I mean, Lamar Jackson, he's gonna take us there.
That's awesome, man. All right, can I assume at this point that like the dream of being a chiropractor maybe is finally like put to the side for, at least a little bit?
A little bit for sure. It's definitely still plan B, but I mean, plan B just looking far into the future at this point. Oh no, my lights came off. Hold on.
Oh man, you're good.
Yeah, hold on. But
right.
You can see me? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I'm not moving around enough to where it'll pick it up, but that kind of plan B is really kind of pushed to the side a little bit. And I mean, I'm giving everything I can to this program in my football career. So yeah, safe to say that chiropractic is being pushed to the side a little bit.
I mean, I can understand. It's not a bad fallback plan, though. Not a bad fallback plan.
Yeah.
Josh Cuevas, where can Ravens fans be following you on social media?
Yeah, so Instagram, at Little Cuevas, _Cuevas. So I'll be on Instagram. I run it. So, I mean, I'll see your guys' DMs and stuff, all the time. But there, and then Twitter. I also have a Twitter as well. Don't check that too often. But you can follow me there as well. And those are really like the two main social media platforms I use. But those two spots.
And whatever you do, do not tell him about your parlay. He doesn't care. He doesn't care.
I do not.
Stop.
Yes, I do not.
And besides, I just want to know something about you away from foot. Besides, interest in being a chiropractor. What's something that we should know about you? What do you get into besides football? How you spending your time? I think I saw you're a gamer, right?
I do play games sometimes. I'm a big kind of like first-person shooter kind of guy. I play like Call of Duty here and there. Not a really big like sports guy when it comes to video games. I'd honestly rather be out there doing it.
That makes sense.
And I just kind of get bored super easily with those kind of things. But other than like kind of like video games and stuff like that, like I'm a big believer in kind of like getting outdoors, going on hikes and stuff like that. And I'm also like a big animal guy as well. I grew up like around horses and, things like that. Grandpa has a farm back in Arizona.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I kind of grew up saddling up horses and, feeding chickens and, shaving sheep and kind of running the farm. But I have 2 dogs back at home. So anytime I can kind of get with them, go on a hike with them or, go on a little walk or something, that's definitely something I like to do on my free time. But I'd have to say getting outdoors, going on hikes, going on walks, exploring new places. That's something that's big into like my routine and honestly something that I keep also like my mental health straight.
That's awesome, Josh. That's really cool, man. Josh Cuevas, it's so great to meet you. Looking forward to seeing more of you in the coming weeks and months as we move towards the start of the season. Thank you for hopping on with us and spending the time. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was great meeting you, Glenn. I appreciate you.